sim racers from around the globe, honoring a revolutionary era of open-wheel racing. With a beast not easily tamed, roaring around legendary circuits at breakneck speed. When engineers and drivers push boundaries, sometimes too far. When heroes muscled roaring beasts wheel to wheel around the hallowed grounds. A time when the only driver aids were his 2 feet, the perfect combination of man, machine, and speed. Experience the competition and the glory of early 80s IndyCar action. The Lionheart Retro Series presented by Next Level Racing starts now.
The tricky triangle, we find ourselves in the heart of Southern California on a circuit that set the template for the street race as we know it, Long Beach. With the Queen Mary serving as the backdrop on this historic track, the stars line up and we get ready to take to the roar to the shore. Welcome everyone and welcome back to RaceSpotTV and coverage of the 2023 Lionheart Retro Series. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. My name is DJ Clark, delighted to be joined up at the commentary booth by you and O'Leary with our director-producer, Hugo Louise, serving behind the scenes. Let's go ahead and dive right on into our butt-kicker pre-race show. And Ewan, this is going to be pretty fantastic. It's Long Beach. We have always talked about just how tricky it is to get around the streets here on this Southern California circuit.
Yeah, we have so often, because so much of this race is indeed about survival. 64 laps around here, and it's about staying out the barriers first of all, but also about the racing that we're going to see. On 2 of the 3 occasions we've been here previously, the winning margin has been below a second. Of course, Sean Campbell dominating last season, but it's been a track where there's been close finishes in the past, close races, and that is mainly down to the fact that people are just surviving in the first moments of the race.
Very, very much so. This will be our 4th visit here to the streets of Long Beach. Obviously, this being on the schedule all the way back in Season 1. But the schedule, let's go ahead and run you over to that schedule presented by Next Level Racing. As you can see, we just came from Pocono, the first of our Triple Crown events. Right on the heels of that, next week, we go to Motegi on June 1st. And then we head into our month of May festivities that are actually going to be taking place in June there on the Indy Road course, as well as Indianapolis itself through the rest of the season. So many great highlights here to be able to take a look at, and so much diversity on this schedule really makes for a full, well-rounded driver, the one that's going to be able to take to the top.
Yeah, and it goes all over the world as well, this schedule from all continents as well, so that's fantastic to see. But this is a long season, as you can see, a lot of rounds on there at the moment. So the fact that, you know, we've only done 4 of them, we're really only getting going here in the Lionheart Retro Series this season. There's a very long way to go, but as you say, such a mix of circuits, ovals and road courses as well. It's really an all-rounder that you need to take this title.
Yeah, it certainly is. As we've come into the season here at this point with those about 5 rounds done and dusted. Let's go ahead and move on over into those driver standings, also presented by Next Level Racing. As you can see, it is the rookie here, Sean Campbell, on the charts. He is counted as a rookie. He ran a few races with us last year. As you said earlier, he is our defending champion here, but he ran under the minimum number of races last year, so he's still counted as a rookie. But Matt Taylor, Mike Smith, Michael O'Brien trying to close in on him. David Sirwall, we always talk, Raven Lavoie, motorsports driver, always particularly dangerous here on any kind of track that he goes to, but known a little bit more as a road racer. Then it's Dan Zegers and Philip Kraus, 2 names that we certainly circled there for team talent at the beginning of the year, 2 rookies that find themselves 7th and 8th. Then some very familiar names in the form of Tyler Graff and Alex Guyon. Very, very good battles going on through the field here, but especially considering what we saw last time out, Ewan, I think really here the drivers to try to catch that number 26 machine, the WMP racing car of Sean Campbell.
Yeah, Sean Campbell's going to have a big target on his back because, as we've mentioned, he is the reigning race winner here for this round at Long Beach and was the only driver to win by more than a second. In fact, he led every single lap last season, so he's got quite the target on his back going into this race, and also being the championship leader. All of these stacking up for a really good race because everybody's just going to be looking at him as to become a race winner, and if he were to be able to do it today, he'd become the first driver to take 2 Long Beach victories in the Lionheart Retro Series.
He certainly would. As we're going to flip on over into the team standings here, presented by HyperX. And it's Nezumi Graphics LC mad 80 points. A big lockout there at the top. Nezumi Graphics LC also there, about 80 points behind them. So a very, very close battle. Raven Lavoie holding their own, trying to close down Unacceptable Racing. My vote for my favorite team name this year in the Lionheart Retro Series finds themselves in fourth, followed by 4D Racewear, SRT Black, then Backfire Motorsports, Team Talent, Elise West Racing, Graphics LC Nezumi Special, another one of those teams, and 4D Racewear SRT Chrome. And really one of the storylines that we've seen up to this point in the season is the cooperation that has been able to go on between all of those Nezumi Graphics LC teammates. They may be running with different specific teams, as there is a limit to the number of drivers you can have in a team, but that group cooperation, even though this is a fixed series, you're racing all the same setup, the cooperation have among those drives seems to have really, really paid out for them over the course of this year.
You could argue that with a fixed series, the cooperation means even more, because that means that you can only learn about the circuit and you can only kind of exchange that kind of information. You know, I did this through this corner, maybe you should try this, and all that kind of thing. So you could argue that while there's no setup to go over, it could be even more important to have teammates around you to figure these things out. But the Nezumi Graphics LC team have 3 of the top 4 in the overall drivers' standings, which says a lot about those team standings, as you can see on your screen there. Sean Campbell not attached to any of these teams, and that's why we don't see his name anywhere up towards the front here. But they're certainly the team to beat here as things stand after only 4 rounds.
Yeah, certainly so, but we've got a long season left to go, and they're going to have to lock in on it. But you mentioned Sean Campbell there. He leads the way in another one of our series, and that is the rookie standings presented by the Butt Kicker, as he leads the way by a pretty massive margin there, as you would expect. He's leading the championship at this point. Zam Zegers and then Philip Kraus behind him, battling out for that second place position here at this point. Both of those Team Talent drivers that also find themselves up into the top 10 of the overall standings. Then Samuel Fontaine going to hold on to 4th place. Matt Wagner behind him. Drew Wright, Andrew Wood had a little bit of a rough start to the season, had some bad luck coming on into it. Christopher Hill in 8th place. Kite Bomberbatch, one of the names that we really circled at the beginning of the season, is one that he may be able to get his way forward, but he hasn't been able to run a full schedule up to this point. That's why he's a little bit farther back down, and Bruno Miranda rounding out your top 10 there. But really some heavy hitters, particularly up in those top 3. I mean, Campbell, we've already talked at length about him, but Zegers and Kraus, 2 very, very quick drivers that certainly could take the fight to anybody on a given day.
Absolutely, and I really do like the idea of having a rookie standings, by the way, in any series, and commend Lionheart for doing so. But as you say, there are some big hitters, and I'm not sure that these kind of names are exactly what they had in mind when introducing a rookie championship, because these are not rookies in terms of driving ability anyway, certainly up towards the front. It's not inconceivable at all that the overall winner of the Lionheart Retro Series this season will be the rookie standings winner as well, because we've got quite a few names we can float in for the overall win, never mind this championship win.
Yeah, very, very much so. Well, we've talked a lot about the series up to this point. Let's go into the series details presented by Gomez Sim Industries. This is the 10th year of the Lionheart Racing Series and the 7th year of the Lionheart Retro Series, driving those Lotus 79s. As you heard in the intro, very, very special cars modeled off of Dreddy's winning car back in 1978. So not a perfect one-to-one comparison here for the American-style racing, but they have really made things over and made this into a fantastic series. Running custom fixed setups. Those are setups that are developed by the league themselves to be able to put on in cash and prizes working up of $3,600. We've already run one of our Triple Crowns. That was Pocono last time out. We've also got Indy and Auto Club coming on up. Mike Rasmus there, you saw 3rd in the championship right now. now, trying to work his way back up to claim a successive championship. And Magworks Motorsports, who's kind of been split off a little bit up to this point, finds themselves your defending team champ. Let's go ahead and go on the event here, presented by Arena. As we go into those details, it is the 4th trip to the Lionheart Retro Series here in these Lotus 79s. As we said, is part of the first season that by the Lionheart Retro Series, run as the test track back in those old Halcyon days. Now, this is a little bit interesting. Pole position has only entered HyperX victory lane once, and that was Sean Campbell last year. But starting towards the front has always been a good omen, as the defending race winners have always seemed to start in the order, as in Season 1 it was Jason Galvin taking victory from 3rd, then Aaron Morgan from P2, and then Campbell obviously from P1. Pretty big fuel windows here as they run. It looks like from the data that we have, looks like the fuel stint going to be about 26 to 28 laps. We expect a 2-stop strategy here to be the best way to go around. There you can see the details, though, on the largest margin of victory and the most lead changes. We did.
Yeah, we're hoping for something similar here today, or even more in terms of lead changes, and maybe a bit less in terms of margin of victory. Sean Campbell absolutely dominant last season, and led every single lap, won by a mile, and we don't tend to see that. But as you mentioned there, it's pole position has not often been the way to win these races. However, it has been for starting up towards the front. So qualifying is going to be very, very important. We'll be there very soon, and we'll really find out then as to who's contender for this race win.
Yeah, we're up for a pretty far. Matt Taylor only set by 0.03 of a second, so it's going to be very, very difficult. But let's take a look here at this track, Ewan, because this is a street circuit. We're talking about very, very tight margins around here, but we think of street circuits as not really being able to pass around here. That's not necessarily the case at Long Beach. We've got 2, I'd even make an argument of 3 relatively decent passing zones that we could see some overtakes take place here.
Yeah, I'd certainly go with a couple of them, maybe a couple of other half chances as well. But yeah, it's not going to be easy by any means. It is still a street circuit. We can't get away from that fact. But we will see overtaking here today, namely down towards turn 1, which is of course the famous one, the long run around the gentle right-hander in towards a bit of a squeeze into there. It has to be said, and then to turn 9 as well, where if you go side by side for too long, you'll end up side by side, even at the hairpin as well, where even these most retro of race cars will struggle with their turning circle to get out of that final corner.
They certainly will. And so that is the view from beautiful Long Beach, California. A bit strange. I'm actually not out in California right now, so I'm not near my home track here on the simulator, so a bit strange to be seeing it from that far away. Go ahead and bring you right on into qualifying action here, because we are under about 5 minutes to go, as there you hear the roar of the Lotus 79s working their way through that tightening section that you talked about, you and down through the fountain section here. As we take a look at 45, Michael O'Brien. It is Mike Rasmus up at the top of the order, Matt Taylor, and then O'Brien, your 3rd place car. Campbell only in 4th here at the moment, but we have seen Campbell come alive a little bit, put down a bit of a banker lap on the first time of asking, and then really put on the afterburners.
Yeah, and there's still time remaining in this session. You've got to remember that around this circuit in particular, there's plenty of time on your side. Only 1:12.1 for the pole position time at the moment, the current pole time. That, about 72 seconds. It's a long time to get yourself up to speed, get yourself ready, and get yourself underway for the qualifying properly. Last year, it was a pole time of a 71.6 from Campbell. Taylor just goes a little bit quicker, but we're nowhere near that pole time just as of yet.
No, not quite yet. Great lap there by the 98 of Tyler Groff. That was going to bump him up into 4th. Looks like he's actually going to fall down to 6th here. O'Brien had something he didn't like there at the moment. Going to pull off to the side. Here's one of those rookies that we talked about, Samuel Fontaine, in the number 22 for 40 Racewear. Bring that car along the backstretch, and this is going to be one of those overtaking opportunities that we talked about. The hard braking zone here, it's a little bit wider than you think. You're able to take a little bit of that inside curbing if you want to be aggressive.
Yeah, you certainly are, and it's all the challenge of this street circuit, using every bit of tarmac you can until you get out to the concrete on either side of you. That's the name of the game around here. Sammy Fontaine goes over the line, and a big improvement from him. he should jump up to 12th place in the standings as of right now. Still a second away from Taylor, who looks like he'll take pole here.
Yeah, it looks like he will. About 2.5 minutes left to go here in your session. Here's David Sirois. We talked about him a little bit earlier in that Raven Lavoie Motorsports team. Gotta say, I'm so used to seeing the red and black and white on the cars, but they've kind of thrown the gold in this year, and I'm a little bit of a fan of it here as he brings his way out of the famous Long Beach hairpin. He's not going to put a lap down. He's going to stay in 6th here for the moment, but practicing pit entry, which is something also very important to do.
Yeah, it's very narrow into on the way in there, and you do need to make sure you've practiced it, as you do anywhere, to be fair. It's an overlooked part of racing, actually, practicing pit entry, but making sure that he's not one of those, Sirois, and has cemented his place in 6th place. Indeed, Taylor actually did go a little bit quicker on his most recent lap time, by the way, the only driver into the 111s. We're still a couple of tenths away from where we were last season, but it's not a bad time at all, and that should be enough for pole.
That should be enough for pole here at this point. It's a pretty big gap, about 0.2 of a second there. Very, very small gaps moving back down through that with Rasmus Kraus, O'Brien, and Campbell separated by just a couple of hundredths of a second apiece there. Here's Bruno Miranda, a name that we are used to seeing for his team. Hugo Hollinger coming on in. Bruno, a rookie here in the season, trying to be able to bring some acclaim to that team. Obviously having a pretty good run out in the real world as well, as the 91 comes out of the hairpin, sees something he didn't like. That may have been a little bit of a brush of the wall. That's also something that we've got to talk about over the course of this qualifying session. Of course, you brush that wall, that is a discounted lap.
Yeah, and that makes Long Beach qualifying oh so more difficult, making contact with the walls. You really have to be careful of that. But then again, you are maximising that time as much as you possibly can. So it's a very difficult balancing act that you have to make on the exits of these corners, especially. Not so much on the entry, because you'll actually do damage most of the time, clipping any wall on the entry. However, on the exits, especially in terms of actually making a little bit of contact, it is one to watch. Although in these cars, it's pretty easy to see where either side of your car is. It's not like driving a more regular road car around one of these where you're slightly not sure where either side of your car is. You can see exactly where you are in these cars.
Yeah, very much so. A little bit of an elevated driver position here for these cars. The clock ticks down and we hit 0 there. The checkered flag flies for qualifying. That means our field is set here at Long Beach for the HyperX Grand Prix of Long Beach. Going to be, as we said earlier, 64 laps, about 125 miles around this historic circuit. Again, about a 2-stop window, what we're going to be looking at. Let's go ahead and run you through the starting grid here today. It's going to be Matt Taylor for Nezumi Graphics LC Madworks up on the top step of the grid. Mike Rasmus, his sister teammate there to his outside. Then it's Phil Kraus and Michael O'Brien lining up behind them. Your points leader and defending champion from this race, Sean Campbell, only 5th place. He'll have a little bit of work to do if he wants to retain that crown. David Sirois going to hold on to P6 for Raven Lavoie. As we move down, Tyler Groff with a great performance there in P7. Then Christopher Hill for Unacceptable Racing. And real-life racer Richie Hearn finds himself inside the top 10 in P9. Chris Fowler going to work his way to P10. Alex Gouillon for Raven Lavoie will be 11th. And the rookie Samuel Fontaine for 4D Raceware SRT Black will round out your top 12. Then it's Seb Alexander and Ricky Harden in the row behind them. Christopher Reagan and Samuel Ryman will be in 16th. Dan Zagers will be in 7th. To his outside for Team Sim Race 247. 19th position as we continue to work our way back down the grid here is going to be Rodrigo Munoz, and then it's going to be Cristobal Valenzuela in P20. Eric Starpoli will line up in 21st, Jim Herrick 22nd. Chris Stouffer is going to be 23rd, and Hugo Gallas will round out your top 24. 25th on the field today. Looks like it's going to be Craig Forsyth, and then 3 drivers. Luis Gonzalez-Nuzzi, going to be in 25th, then Craig Forsyth. Looks like Bruno Miranda and Paul Jenkins did not set lap times here today, so they will start from the back of the grid. We've got a couple of onboards to run you through here. Obviously, I have onboard cameras with everybody, but we've got some special ones to bring you through. Starting off with the number 4 machine with Phil Kraus, who has the Next Level Racing onboard camera. Take your racing to the next level. Visit nextlevelracing.com. Reggie Hearn is going to be sporting the Arena onboard camera in that number 70. A new streaming experience for esports is coming. Get involved and make a difference on arena.com. And finally, Matt Taylor in the number 8 carries the HyperX onboard camera. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is ready to game. A short pace lap around here as Taylor brings this field around to green. Ewan, is this just a matter of being consistent and keeping this off the walls here? Energy to follow.
It is indeed. It's certainly partly about that, partly about survival, but also you've got to race one another as well. That's where the interest is going to be as we go to the green flag.
They come out at a famous Long Beach hairpin, working their way onto this curving front straightaway, and almost immediately Matt Taylor gets on the loud pedal as there goes the green, and we are racing in Southern California. The top 3-4 get down in a single file order as they work their way down into turn 1. A couple of jockeying around there behind as we've got a little bit of a move coming up to the inside. Sean Campbell looking to try to go down to the inside there as Taylor's going to hold on to the lead coming down into the fountain section, and it looks like about the first 10 or 15 cars are through cleaning.
Absolutely, it was quite single file actually in the top 5, and through the fountain section everybody getting single file, just showing what survival skills you need around this circuit. Keep things clean early on, and then you can start to push on a little bit later when everything's single file. Then you can start to make the overtakes, but for now it's all about just surviving, and that's what most of the field have done.
Yeah, most of them have been able to get through here at this point, cutting that current, coming onto the back straightaway. That is perfectly legal here as they work their way on through. Looking like everybody is nice and easy now down off of the back straightaway. Matt Taylor will lead the way, starting to build a little bit of a gap. Looks like that's going to grow up to about 0.2 of a second here at this point. But I've got to imagine the Rasmus is just going to try to ease that in a little bit. Not seeing any very brave dives going down to the hairpin, and we can all be thankful for that, as that is always a bit of a one-way ticket to disaster.
Absolutely. You've got to be so careful earlier on, as Matt Taylor and everyone behind him have indeed done. This is the run down towards turn 1, and they're all looking fine for now, although Sean Campbell looks the raciest. We've already got yellow flag out on the circuit.
Oh, it's a full course yellow by the look of it. We may even have the safety car deployed here as we've got some damage a little bit farther back in the field. Now, this is not altogether unorthodox. We have seen this kind of thing before here, particularly a couple of seasons ago. I remember this happening at Road America and at Long Beach with everything as close as it is. It can get a little bit tight, so it looks like here that we do have that full course yellow. We follow Jim Herrick right here. A little bit of damage on the front of that car. As you see the slowing down of this field, and well, this not only is going to bunch that field back up, get rid of any lead that Matt Taylor had at the front, this is also going to throw a little bit of a wrench into the fuel cycle.
It is a little bit. It might mean that they can go a little bit further, maybe towards 30 laps on a run instead of 28, which we were previously expecting to be the limit. But this is a bizarre one. Let's have a look at the replay down in towards the final corner. Everybody being very courteous with one another. And there it goes. There's the spin. A number of drivers and a track blockage, meaning the caution was thrown there. And so you can't blame them at all. First time we've ever seen a caution at Long Beach in the Lionheart Retro Series. And so it's a bit of a surprise, but after seeing the replay, no surprise, because the track was entirely blocked.
Indeed it was, and that was, by the way, a caution thrown by iRacing itself on the order, so it was actually not set down by any stewards. That is coming from the simulator itself to throw it around. And that's going to, as we said, change things up here a little bit. And I got to think, if you are Matt Taylor, you are ruining this opportunity. He got a great start at the beginning of this, really starting to lay down pace, and now you've got to kind of reset, restack, and get yourself back in and collected.
He got quite a good start, but I don't think he'll be particularly disappointed with losing his lead, because after all, he only built it up over a lap and a quarter, maybe. And so it wasn't that big yet. Maybe he'll be ruining the fact that he couldn't have gone on to extend it more, but I think he'll have just an equal, if not better, opportunity to do it right now on this restart as well. So, you know, I don't think he'll be too disappointed as we look back as to how it all started. It was Valenzuela who was the first one to get tipped around, and then you're in the really awkward position of not knowing whether what to do, whether to stay still, reverse out the way, go forwards. Bit of a nightmare position to be.
Yeah, very much so, and a little bit of tech there. I think a little bit of spinning of the rear tires, probably a combination of the two there, sending them around. Looks like we've had a few movers and shakers here as things go along. Campbell able to jump up 1 spot there and get his weight placed. And we saw him looking a little bit aggressive coming down into turn 1 there on lap 2 as he tried to fight his way forward. Chris Hill, though, going to be your big mover here at this point up in that top area, as well as Zagers, both able to jump up 2 positions. And I've got to say here, for Long Beach, 2 positions on 2 laps, that's a good run. That is something to hang your hat on.
That's a very good run, actually, in the opening moments of this race, because we saw how single file it was at the front of the field, that, you know, it's very difficult to pass when you're in that particular situation. So fair play to those guys who have managed to make up places back in the pack, and traditionally we are going to see it back in the pack. But either way, on this restart, hopefully we'll be able to see some more as well, but it will be a single file restart, of course, and it will be very, very different to the actual race start of this one. I think the only thing it will really change is the amount of fuel that these drivers will have in the car, and they'll probably be able to go a little bit further on this first stint as a result.
As we're going to take a look on board Jim Herrick, this is coming down into the corner. Oh, no, that was, excuse me, the sort of wheel spin there. That was some pretty massive contact there between Valenzuela and Herrick. And that's such a so difficult.
It can be very difficult, and unfortunately, I don't think Herrick can blame anybody but himself there, unless he got hit in the rear himself. I think he was the one that caused that whole chain reaction there, so I'm sorry to say that, but I think that might well be the case. It's not unexpected, though, to be fair. This is level with the biggest entry we've ever had at Long Beach in the Retro Series, so it's not too surprising, and nearly 30 cars around here will feel very, very claustrophobic, especially early on.
Yeah, very much so. And the other thing we're going to have to talk about here is, because there is a pretty big disparity among field, we're probably going to be dealing with some lap traffic as this race goes along. Now, this caution flag is going to sort of bunch the field back up, prevent that from happening, but I've got to imagine by the end of this race, the likes of Taylor, Rasmus, Kraus, O'Brien, Campbell, all these drivers up the front of the field, they're really going to have to be slicing and dicing their way through some lap traffic. And, well, around a street circuit, there are only so many places you can go by, and so that's going to present a real problem for these leading drivers.
Absolutely, it's going to be a massive problem for everybody. So it's not only the length of circuit, I suppose, but also the amount the field gets strung out here. The concertina effect seems to be even larger because of the hairpins, particularly the final sector. So the field gets really strung out for the same amount of cars, maybe compared to what it would be otherwise. But also, as you say, it's a short circuit, so lots of lap traffic going to be dealt with, and that's going to be a problem for the race leaders in particular.
Certainly is, but the lights are out on the iRacing Savar as it works its way and scuttles down into pit lane here and giving control of the field back over to Matt Taylor. Taylor's going to hold up the field here a little bit longer than he did off of that initial start. Now gets on the lead pedal, and there's contact there in the back of the field.
There certainly was. Couldn't see who it was with. I think Chris Fowler was involved, maybe. And Tyler Gruff maybe got hit up the rear, but everybody just having to duck out to avoid there as they run down towards turn 1 on this restart. It's Fowler down the inside and up to 9th place.
Yeah, that's a good move there for Fowler, able to get by Richie Hearn, who I believe may have raced on this circuit in real life. I'm not sure. I'd have to check Richie's stats to be able to tell you that for exactly sure. But the 10th place driver right now going to work his way on by, trying to get a little bit more on Chris Fowler. Right on board with the number 70, and good heads up there from Richie, using those curbs a little bit. That's something that you see the real expert drivers around here do, actually using those curbs to rotate the car a little bit more.
And using the curb, especially here, to cut the corner as much as possible down there at turn 8, which spits you out onto East Seaside Way, and then down towards the final couple of corners, the final sector where everything will just concertina accordion together and then string out on the exit. You'll see everybody slow down massively for this hairpin. To be fair, it's quite spread out actually inside the top 10, so it's not too much of a slow up, but especially down the back of the field, that's going to be a real problem.
Yeah, it certainly is. As I take a look there at the front wings of those machines, and that was Fowler, Groff, and Hearn, I think, that were involved in that little bit of a checkup coming off the start. Don't think there's any damage there to him. Richie Hearn going to take a little bit of a look at the inside of Chris Fowler going into turn 1. Not going to play out there, and Hearn's going to have to stay in line. Again, one of the things about Long Beach here, it is possible to pass, but you have got to have massive overspeed and maximum commitment to make that move work.
You certainly do. You can't make a pass as easily as you would on many of the other circuits we go to on our schedule this season. It's a very, very different proposition to that. You've got to work at it for many laps. You've got to hound the guy in front of you for as long as possible and then try and capitalise on that error. But when these guys are at such a high level, those mistakes are hard to come by, and you have to work so hard for an overtake around here.
Yeah, you really do, and we always talk about, sort of what we saw do there at that point, poking your nose to the inside, seeing if you can force a little bit of an error out of the driver in front of you. And that's all said and good, but as you said, Ewan, when you are dealing with drivers of this caliber, those mistakes are very, very hard to come by.
They are, yeah.
They cross over the line here to start. Here they go.
Yeah, still single file at the front, kind of proving the point, really, isn't it, about the nature of overtaking around here. Everybody just unable and maybe unwilling to make a move as well, because let's not forget this will be a long two-stop race with a lot of strategy up ahead as well.
Yeah, it certainly will be. We jump here on board with the Elite West Racing driver of Chris Reagan, currently riding in 16th position. The other thing to remember here about this Lionheart Retro Series and this Lotus 79 car in particular, very, very sensitive to weight levels in the car. So if the fuel burns off here, that was Ale up ahead of him, trying to take a little bit of a look down to the inside, see if he could get anything to play. I'm sure he was going to be able to do that there, though, and he's going to have to stay in line at the moment. But as I was saying, very sensitive to weight and to fuel levels. So as these cars burn off that fuel, they'll get lighter, they'll get racier, and I wouldn't be surprised if near the end here of what we suspect now is going to be about a 30-lap stint, courtesy of that yellow flag, that's when we see some of these moves coming, as that was Ricky Harden trying to be a little bit too aggressive down through the hairpin and catching that inside barrier.
Yeah, just wanted that too good of a run, really, out of the first corner out the final corner for the first turn, where he was going to try and make a move. But that's what you need to do. It's kind of a real good illustration of quite how hard you have to work around here, as we said in the past. You've got to, get those exits out the final corner as best as you possibly can, and that means getting as close to the wall as possible. But unfortunately for Harden on that occasion, just got a little bit too close. He just seemed quicker than Fontaine in front, though, and should be able to work his way through at some point in the near future. Oh dear.
We've had another coming together back farther in the field. That is Holy there, and that is a big confluence of cars. Valenzuela involved in it. Multiple drivers involved. Thankfully, we didn't get another full course yellow, but that was a kerfluffle if I have ever seen one.
That's one of the biggest kerfuffles I've ever seen, I think. That was quite bizarre. But it could have easily been a second yellow, couldn't it, there, really, for the race there. It could have easily been another slowing of the field, but thankfully we stay green. But a real big mess down at the final chicane, and once again proving the point that there's just nowhere to go. When you see someone off in front of you, or you see a problem transpiring ahead of you, there's nowhere to actually go to avoid it, really.
Yeah, there really isn't, especially when you get that situation where you've got cars kind of perpendicular to the track. It gets very, very difficult to see. Oh, great camera angles here by our director, Hugo. That is absolutely beautiful seeing him come through the fountain section. One of the most picturesque racing areas in the world. Granted, I'm a little biased because this is one of my hometown tracks here, but you got to absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Picturesque, certainly. I don't think we can doubt that. It's a circuit that's been around for so long as well, in all of its various configurations, and it's still in full use today in IndyCar, of course, and providing the great racing that it does. I'm very, very glad to have it, as maybe Jenkins isn't at the moment, just breaking a bit too late. Another challenge of the street circuits, of course, escape roads on the exits of corners.
And Paul able to get the car woke up under. Remember, Paul was one of the cars here that did not set down a qualifying time, so he's going to have to work his way through the field. Tyler Groff right now tries to get his way up forward, as we're going to focus back here on Dan Zegers as he tries to get his way forward. This is one of those rookies that we talked about. Really and truly, I think one of the storylines of this season is the strength of this rookie class. Fontaine, Zegers, Kraus, Campbell, Hill, everybody really, really coming together here. This is one of the strongest rookie classes that we have seen in the Lionheart Retro Series in a very, very long time. And we're seeing a little bit of new versus old. Some names that we've been familiar with for many, many years, like Taylor and Rasmus and O'Brien, fighting up against these upstarts.
Yeah, it's, as I said earlier on, the rookie series winner could well be the overall series winner by the end of this one, because of the names within it are just so strong. Sean Campbell's just taken the fastest lap, incidentally. Another one of the rookies we've got in the field here this evening. But most of them, or some of them I should say, are stuck in this train at the moment. It's Harden at the front in 12th place, and then we've got another 4 drivers in behind, including Fontaine and Zegers, as you can see. Both in behind, but yeah, what a strong rookie field we have. As 2 of them make contact there into the final chicane, at the final hairpin.
Yeah, a little bit of banging and bumping there. That is going to be Ricky Harden there ahead of this field. I believe he was just able to get by Fontaine, unless I am greatly mistaken there. Yes, he was able to get by him. So that's going to be Harden trying to stretch that advantage a little bit. But credit here to Fontaine, holding on to the back of him. Fontaine's got to be a little bit careful. As there's contact coming down into the fountain section. A little bit of how you doing from front and behind there. That was Fontaine into Zegers, into the 49 there. Very tough stuff as they came down there. Lucky that didn't get worse.
Well, once again, it's the accordion effect, isn't it, that really plunges the cars together through those tight sections, especially the fountain, and especially at the end of the lap as well. And that's where you've got to be really careful of one another, not to make a bit of contact. As we just saw, that was wide a little bit as well through turn 8, which can be easily done, as some of the drivers try and work their way past one another through there, but still finding it very difficult to overtake.
Yeah, very difficult to overtake. By the way, that Ale you see there, that is Seb Alexander on our timing screens in the number 49. As we jump back here to Craig Forsyth, a little bit farther down in the field. Craig, as we've mentioned here, running a sort of retro livery this year, a little bit different from what he is used to running, as now he has been able to hook up with that 4D Racewear team and trying to bring his way on forward here, but looks like he's running out of a little bit of gas here, just not nearly as well. As now we jump back up to that battle, and that is Zegers able to get by Fontaine. Fontaine getting a little bit run on here at this point. Alexander and Reagan trying to be able to make, it looks like Fontaine's just falling back down through the order.
A little bit, coming under a little bit of pressure, and this is one of the developments now that we're seeing when there's a group running together, that when you can't get through on the driver in front, the driver behind you starts to have a look themselves. But it doesn't look like there's going to be any change here over the next lap or two between these guys in this group in particular. Harden has just stepped on the pace a little bit, got away from the rest of the group, and now that he has done that, the rest of them are not quite so close together anymore.
No, they're certainly not, and we did see a couple of drivers there making a little bit of outside wall. And now we saw Ricky Harden make contact with the inside wall coming down here into that final hairpin. Oh, as we're going to jump up in the field, as here comes your defending champion, and Sean Campbell starting to put on the aft. A clean pass on O'Brien down into, it was absolutely textbook.
Absolutely textbook, and we didn't see how that all started, of course, but I bet it was slightly worked on through the final sector of the previous lap there, because that's what you have to do. Campbell very calm and measured there in his attack and made his way through. Now up to 4th place. He's got a bit of work to do, but I've no doubt he'll be able to catch the leaders. Here's how he did it, with the good run out the final corner, good slipstream as well, and O'Brien realising that this is not a battle that I need to take part in right now. So Campbell moves up to 4th place.
Yeah, and I think that's some pretty good heads up there from O'Brien, recognizing that Campbell probably going to be coming on through, recognizing that he was faster than him and not wanting to put up too much of a fight. As look at that gap he's already starting to develop here at this point. It's already grown to about 7.5 tenths of a second, as now Campbell's going to try to close down on his fellow rookie in front of him, Philip Kraus. We may see a little bit of a battle start to shape up there for the final podium position.
I think we will. I think Campbell's got the pace to catch these guys. He set a fastest lap of the race earlier on. Taylor has that once again as the cars are getting lighter, and so fastest laps are going to be flying in over the next 10 laps. But I think Campbell will have the pace to close in on these guys. He's already got rid of O'Brien behind him. And of course, he'll want to catch them all as well in terms of championship standings. It's a bit early to be talking about that kind of thing, but I'll do it anyway. He'll want to keep these guys in check at the very least.
Yeah, certainly will. And it also may be a little something here now that Campbell could try to put himself into position, maybe push a little bit here, take for a little bit of an undercut strategy. As I'll tell you what there, though, Philip Kraus, I think he feels the pressure from behind. He's starting to make some moves here on Mike Rasmus. He knows that Campbell has made that play, and he doesn't want to be the first in the firing line. He is all over the back there of your defending champion.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if it's been instigated by Campbell closing in or whether he's just decided that he needs to make the move now, because Taylor's started to get away a little bit. I think Rasmus is just struggling a little bit at this stage, but Kraus is going to struggle to get through here. He didn't seem to be gaining at all on Rasmus, and this is where the exit off the final corner really comes into play, because Kraus just didn't have any slipstream benefit there at all, seemingly. It's almost as if it wasn't working for him there at all, and he barely gained anything on the straight itself.
Yeah, barely gained anything, and the slipstream is decently powerful down that front straightaway, although I do think you've really got to maximize that run out of the final corner to make sure you are able to take advantage of it. And it looked like on that last lap that Kraus just maybe cut the corner a little bit narrow. Normally, if you see a very, very fast line out of there, it tends to be all the way to the outside, kind of maximizing that momentum, almost taking an oval line out of that last hairpin.
Yeah, it's a similar kind of way of thinking, I suppose, for that run onto the front straight, but it's so difficult to do anything different to the driver in front of you when you're so close. Rasmus has got a really nice line actually nailed down there, and Kraus trying something different just can't seem to do any better than it. Rasmus almost robotic out of that final corner in the way that he's managing this, and maybe Kraus will start to get a little bit worried, because that fastest lap pops through now for Sean Campbell.
Yeah, Campbell on a definite charge here has been able to bring that gap down to about 2 seconds into the braking zone here of the fountain section. And I've got to say, as that is your leader there, Matt Taylor, making some pretty significant contact with the outside wall. Now, you can get away with a few of those bumps and bangs, a little bit of scrapes on the outside wall here, but you've got to be careful. We have to remember how these cars are designed. This is the first car to use ground effects, that is channeling the air underneath the car and basically creating a vacuum underneath the car to suck it into the ground. And if you make too much of that side contact with the outside wall, you'll damage the side skirts, and that will affect that suction underneath the car, and you will lose downforce as a result of it.
Yeah, it doesn't behave like a modern car, not in the way it drives or the way that it sort of receives damage as well. You don't want to be making contact with the wall, maybe contact that you might get away with these days. You certainly can't in these older cars that can't quite stand up to that kind of punishment. Kraus trying to put some punishment on Rasmus at the moment, and he's very close now towards turn one. He'll have the chance to maybe get down the inside. Oh goodness, side by side between them.
Oh, and he's got to back out of it as they go down to the fountain section, and all of that battling has worked out in the exact opposite effect of what Philip Kraus wanted to happen, as now Sean Campbell has arrived to the party.
He certainly has, and Kraus decided to back out of that really there. He could have forced the issue, and maybe if we were, good 40 laps later on in this race, he would have forced the issue into the fountain, but decides not to, because there's contact there surely waiting to happen. But now he's made his life a whole lot more difficult with the presence of Campbell behind.
Yeah, he certainly has, and so we're going to see how Campbell responds to this in form. Remember, when Campbell was coming up behind O'Brien, we saw a patient, calculated approach get his way on by. I wonder if we're going to see him be maybe a little bit more aggressive here trying to get by Kraus, but we will have to see. Kraus takes a later apex down into that hairpin, really trying to carry momentum and get onto the throttle as succinctly as possible. Is kind of the best way I can describe it. Gives him a pretty good run down the latter part of the straightaway, and here he's going to have another look now on Mike Rasmus. He's going to look down to the inside here as they go down into turn one, tries to be later on the binders, and Rasmus almost throws it all away.
He very nearly threw it all away, just broke far too late in towards turn one. Very nearly had to go down the escape road entirely. And Sean Campbell goes through as a result as well. Phil Kraus was really starting to apply a lot of pressure there, because I said Rasmus had really nailed the final corner when he was continuing to do that. But Kraus was beginning to nail a bit of a late apex, as he commented, and a bit of a run onto the front straight. He certainly got that down in time, put the pressure on Rasmus, who just brakes too late. He tried to hang it round the outside, and he had to brake late to do that, but That was just a step too far.
Yeah, a step too far, and you could see there a little bit of a wiggle coming off of as well as he tried to apply power. Remember, no traction control in these cars whatsoever. The only driver aids you have are your feet and your hands. Let's also remember, this track is notoriously difficult because these drivers do not have sequential gearboxes. You've got to be using that third pedal around here, and that makes life very, very for these drivers. So that makes it all the more impressive to see what they are doing and to see moves like that done.
It does make it fairly tricky, but I mean, if we're listening here, you notice that they actually don't change gear for quite a lot of this section in particular. See, out of the fountain, and there's the shift up, and then you'll stay in the same gear through here, through the double right-handers at turn 4 and 5, so you can fully focus on what you're doing. And then you've only got 1 or 2 shifts until you get up towards the next left-hander, so it does sound like a lot of work, but actually the sections of corners that you have around Long Beach do mean that you don't shift as much as maybe you'd shift in a modern car, certainly, but almost partly because it's so much work to shift in here, you kind of want to minimise that as much as you can.
Very true. Drive smarter, not harder. Definitely what these drivers are able to do. And that, again, comes into the custom fixed setup that is made for these cars. And I've got to think that that gearing's a little bit in mind. I've got to say here, though, Ewan, as we ride on board with Rasmus, he looks a little out of sorts here on this lap.
He does. He really does. I don't know if this is just him getting back up to speed again after braking too late or whether he's actually got damage, but I don't remember him hitting the wall particularly hard at any point. He just must be struggling around this circuit for whatever reason, and at the moment, yeah, looks all out of shape as we spent the lap on board there, particularly in the final sector there, was just all over the place through turn 10, and then that set him off in a bad way for the final corner as well.
Well, I mean, let's not forget, he had that little bit of a wiggle that we saw a couple of times, but look, now that Kraus has been able to get on by, we're going to take a look at a replay here of Luis Nunez. Gets it wrong. Looks like he clobbered up over the curbs there a little bit, coming down into the hairpin. Woohoo! Very going there, almost getting himself into trouble.
He very nearly did. Not sure who that was in front of, but it certainly wasn't ideal from Nunez, who is now the first driver to be one lap down. And as you commented earlier, lap traffic is going to be such a key moment in this race. We're not even a third of the way through, and we're already seeing the first of it.
Yeah, we certainly are, as they try to work their way around here. And Kraus definitely putting the pressure here to the back of Matt Taylor. Kraus knows that Campbell is coming up from behind. He clearly thinks he's got the speed. He's not quite going to be close enough here. Mo, and let me eat my words. That's going to be Kraus down to the inside, trying to take a little bit of a look. It worked earlier there, and he's going to try to hang it around going into the fountain section, trying to put Taylor offline a little to work. And now they go relatively single file here up through this section of the track. Now Campbell once again has arrived to the party. Kraus with a little bit of maybe over-aggression here, just gifting positions over to Campbell. He's going to take another look.
Here we go, Kraus to the inside line at turn 7, and Campbell thought about making it pretty wide as well. They'll run down towards 8. Oh, very close between them, and here comes Campbell. Very nearly 3 wide, but it looks like Kraus will be through, and Taylor might well be back to third here.
Taylor is indeed back into third. Kraus, Campbell, Taylor, your top 3 as they flip-flopped around here, coming down through the back half of the track. Again, Kraus taking that very late apex down through the hairpin to try to maximize speed, but it looks like Campbell's got the better run on him as the number 26 is going to tuck up behind. Remember, he started 5th on the day and on an absolute charge here. Defensive main straightaway.
And very nearly an accident between them as well. Campbell on the outside, can't hang it round there. He'll tuck back into line, but what a battle between these 3 we're seeing. This race has sprung into life now.
Who says you can't make an overgone on a street circuit? My goodness gracious, these 3 putting on an absolute display here. Kraus maybe taking a step. That was a little bit of a wide run there through the corner.
Yeah, I thought he was going to even catch the fence there, or at the very least offer Campbell an opportunity, but didn't. And by the way, yes, I'm one of those who say you can't overtake on a street circuit quite often, and maybe I should less often, based on the evidence of this race so far.
Well, I'm headed out to Detroit next weekend, so I'll let you know how that one goes. But we will have to see. As Campbell continues his progress up through the field, he is up a number of spots here at this point, running very, very well. Now, this is where I'm going to be interested. Kraus has been running that late apex down into the corner. He does it again. Campbell kind of follows him, but is able to get a little bit closer on the second part of that hairpin. And it looks like here that Kraus may have a little bit of a distance. Let's call that about 1.5, 2 car lengths as they come across the start-finish line and down this curving front straightaway. Campbell doesn't quite look like he's got enough of a run. The draft's going to come into play. Campbell pokes down to the inside, but stays in line into 1.
No move in towards turn 1 on this occasion, but these two are the quickest in the race by the looks of things. Kraus and Campbell look just that little bit quicker than Matt Taylor, who's put up a valiant effort so far, actually, on his 50th start in the Lionheart Retro Series, but at the moment he's only running 3rd, which is exactly where he finished 1 season ago. He'll be looking to not emulate that, but I don't think he'll have much choice here, to be honest.
No, I don't think he will as well. We've got a couple of drivers popping down into pit lane here at this point as the field is going to continue to come along onto some lap traffic here as they run. Your leader, Philip Kraus, and now this is going to be the big question mark. How much is that going to hold up Kraus here as he tries to work his way around? And with about 3 to 4 laps, I would say, until that pit stop window would truly open up, I think diving down into pit lane to get some clear air is not going to be a strategy. He's got to stay out, and he's got to pass these cars the old-fashioned way.
I think the problem is that there actually isn't any clean air anywhere, I don't think, around this circuit anymore. They're already into the back markers, some of whom are fighting with one another, as you can see down towards turn 1 with Wood and Munoz, I think that was, changing places, and they're doing it again into the fountain, side by side on the way in, contact between them as well. The leaders go through the middle. Well, this is so unideal for the leaders who have to work their way through this.
Yeah, threading the needle through that incident in front of them. Absolutely. That didn't become anything worse, and we have big accidents going down into the fountain section. That is not an area where you want to see cars banging and bumping on each other.
No, it's not. Even if they're not hitting each other, I suppose, you don't want to see them going side by side in front of you because you know that you're just not going to be able to go anywhere over the course of the next few moments. So it's a very precarious situation to find yourself, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these leaders come in pretty soon because we are getting towards that pit stop window now where surely some of them are going to have to be coming in. At the moment, they'll all stay out though.
Yeah, they're all going to stay out here at this moment. As I look down through the field, I think the first driver to take us to be here, Bruno Miranda, down in about 15th position. I think he has come on down and in here at this point, at least if my timing and scoring is to be believed. Now, very, very crucial, as they crossed over that line there, we've got to remember the very stringent pit out limits. If you are on the track, you are not allowed to stray over that yellow line to the right, and if you are coming out of pit lane, you are not allowed to stray over to the left.
No, you've got to make sure that you're treating that like a concrete wall, I suppose, in terms of you're exiting and entering. Just exiting pit lane, isn't it, really? That's the thing you've got to keep in mind, but you can often get ahead of yourself, especially when you're having a battle out the pit lane, which I'll imagine there will be. I'd be surprised if these two decide to come in at the same time, because I don't think Campbell will want to follow Kraus for this amount of time. He might well believe that if he does that, he'll just be behind him the entire race, and he certainly doesn't want that. So let's see at the end of lap 25 whether there'll be a move. They'll stay out once again, and Campbell continues to follow.
Well, and remember here, these cars get faster and significantly so on lighter tanks of fuel, and with the bias ply tires, as here comes the move for the lead of the race. Campbell going to take a look out to the inside. Almost contact there as they come down to the braking zone for 1, and even before they make the turn for the apex, Campbell is up and on by.
Yeah, so Kraus deciding that it's better to stick in behind at the moment, and might not be a bad choice. He certainly seemed to do that voluntarily there in towards turn 1. He wasn't willing to battle Campbell right into the corner, as you might be able to see in about 30 laps' time. He was, willing to hand that one over for now, suggesting that, it's not worth it at this moment because pit stops are soon.
Yeah, pit stops very coming on, and that normally is a pretty good indicator here in the Lionheart Retro Series that drivers are thinking into pit lane if you see those leaders and dicing for that lead of the race.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I think especially with the ferocity with which, or the lack of, with which Kraus defended that lead there. Well, I'm surprised he didn't come in on that particular occasion, but as you mentioned earlier on, if you pit, you're going to end up in so much traffic anyway, so it might not be worth it at this point.
Yeah, it certainly may not be. Campbell there being a little bit cheeky, trying to be able to get out of that draft there of Kraus to try to move his way around. Campbell also holding on to your fastest lap of the race here at this point. He is going to have a little bit of lap traffic that he's going to be coming up behind. That's going to be Jenkins potentially that he's going to have work his way on by, and that may sway the leader's hand a little bit of when he's going to come on into the pits.
Yeah, almost having to come to a complete stop there. It was one of the lap cars getting out the way of these drivers, but they are coming through with quite some speed, and there's a lot of cars separated by a very small time gap as well. So the stretching out of the field has been quite vast, but at the very front, it's very close between everybody, which is all encouraging news. We're coming towards the final corners, and we'll look towards the right-hand side on the exit of the final corners to see who comes in and if they do at all.
Yes, here we ride onward with Philip Kraus coming down. Looks like neither of your top two were going to come on into the pits. Taylor also going to stay out. Rasmus O'Brien, all of them looking like they're going to stay out, trying to extend this run as long as possible. Probably playing in a little bit to what we talked about in terms of that yellow flag at the beginning of the race, really extending the window. Now, I don't think that's going to extend it down to the point that we're going to be seeing a one-stop strategy work. But the longer you can extend, the more options you're going to give yourself at the end of this race, and that's what's going to be crucial here for these drivers.
Yeah, that's why they're staying out for so long, because they are just opening out their options here for the remainder of the race, and you can't blame them. 28 laps was our previous kind of fuel limit, if you like, for how long we'd expect these drivers to go. But with every 2 laps of caution, you generally save about 1 lap, so they might well be able to go to 29 here without any problems. And so some of those who've been sat behind others for quite some time, which is all of these three at some point in the race, might have been able to save a lap over the course of the 28 laps so far as well. So we'll see just how far they can push this one as they encounter another lap car.
Yeah, going to try to work their way on by it. I believe that is, I don't think that's Paul Jenkins. It doesn't look like his livery. No, that is Paul. So he's going to get out of the way there down the main straightaway, not cause too much consternation there among your leaders. Matt Taylor falling a little bit behind there through that final sector of the track. I was actually about to commend Matt for really being able to keep up behind them and keep that pace going along, but looks like he fell back a little bit. Now, I'm going to be interested to see what that number 8 does in response late onto the binders there, coming down into the fountain section. This drive has surprised me here. I would have thought that Matt would have fallen back down the order here a little bit, kind of lost some pace with these 2 rookies up at the front of the field in the forms of Campbell and Kraus, but he has stayed right up there with them, and I've got to think he may be biding his time a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting to note actually, Taylor, there, because I thought he was going to drop away as well when Kraus and Campbell both got through. I really thought he wouldn't be able to have the pace to stay with them anymore, but clearly he does, and he's probably benefiting from them towing him around at the moment. It's not a high-speed, wide-open circuit where you can save a lot of fuel in this situation, and we're not especially expecting that, but he is just lurking there and maybe willing to pick up the pieces, and now he goes in an early stop as well. This is very interesting now, and maybe a ploy from Taylor to retake the race lead.
Very well could be. He may have a little bit of a bird in his ear there letting him know that he's got somebody else coming on in. And Taylor, as you mentioned earlier, making his 50th start here today. Now, this is a very, very long pit lane here. We're seeing lap times of about 43 seconds or so, or pit lane times about 43 seconds. Only about 7 seconds or so of fuel. You see some drivers taking tires there at this point in the race. Looks like only rears. Taylor's going to come out and get back on his way there without taking any tires, although that, I believe, was O'Brien that we were watching. I think that was Tyler Graff that we saw potentially taking tires there. So a little bit of different strategy here as everything kind of shuffles its way around. Quite a few drivers coming in and out. Looks like we're also going to have Ricky Harden coming out of pit lane here at this point. He's going to bring that car back on out. Remember, maybe a little bit of damage to the front of that car. Oh, there's contact up the front of the field. Oh, my goodness.
Wow. Oh dear, and one of the lap cars finds itself in the wall on the entry to pit lane. Not sure who that was. I think it was Steph Alexander, maybe. Not sure, but into the pit lane come the two leaders, and thankfully they've avoided disaster there.
They've avoided disaster, but my question is for Sean Campbell. It looked like that blue number 26 machine may have made a little bit of contact coming down into the final hairpin, and I worry a little bit about that left front wing on that car. Let's take a look on board here as he comes down in. Yeah, that is some hit. That is a definite hit there right to the back of that car. Now, I don't know how bad that's going to be, and talk about a scary moment there for Campbell as he had to get on the binders, avoid that car coming down into the pits. Now, my question is, where's Taylor? That's him coming out right now. It looks like Campbell and Kraus may be able to avoid any disaster here in terms of losing position. But they are very lucky. No, they're not. Here comes Taylor trying to make a move on Kraus.
Oh, he did have a good outlap there, Taylor, and the inlap wasn't good for the two leaders, but I think that illustrates too, is once and for all, about how how important it is to run out on that lower fuel there at the end of the stints, because when you are heavy on fuel, it does seem to hold you back quite a lot. I think Taylor, under other circumstances, with other cars in play in the same circumstances, may well have taken certainly second place, maybe the lead out of that, but wasn't able to that time. So I think running as long as possible here on this stint is going to be very, very important, and just making use of that low fuel as the two leaders did.
Yeah, very, very much so. I think that is what's able to get them out into the lead. Want to give some credit here, some drivers a little bit farther back in the field, by the way. Sammy Riven and Christopher Valenzuela, both of them able to make it an extra lap here to about lap 30 as they come out of the pits. So some good fuel saving there from those two drivers. Very, very good heads up from them to be able to make that work. That's, once again, just going to give them more options. We don't think they're going to be able to make this on a one-stop strategy necessarily. That's going to be just a little bit too far, although we are at about the halfway point in this race. But nevertheless, having that ability to go a little bit longer, run longer on a lighter tank of fuel, come in and out of the pits, and then really only have to do a couple of seconds of splash and dash near the end. That's a good strategy there for them.
It's a very short pit stop at the end of this one. If we're going back to a 28 lap stint here for the second stint, then you could still see pit stops at what, 58 maybe here in this second stint. Yeah, that's only 6 laps of fuel to put in. Really is a splash and dash at the end of this one, so that won't be too much to worry about for the drivers particularly. But we are going to reach the halfway mark now. Nobody is still out there, so it is going to be a two-stop race for everybody as we expected. That caution period not quite long enough, and there's only one of them so far to mean that you can't save quite enough fuel to make this a one-stop.
And as we cross over the line here, we ride on board with Matt Taylor, and he is your highlighted driver of the race. As we said, this is his 50th start here in this series. He's got 7 wins on the trot, 6 oval and a road course win, so definitely a little bit more of an oval meister, but certainly able to make his statement known here on the road courses as well. And this is what really impresses me about Matt. Of his 49 starts up to this point, he has had 34 top 10s and 29 top 5s. Absolutely dominant performance. Only had 1 pole. His first start was all the way back in Sonoma in season 4, and his first win was a little bit later on in that year at Motegi at the Twin Ring. A very, very impressive driver, and while he may not have gotten the strategy absolutely perfect here today, he's certainly within striking distance here at this point, Ewan, and I think crucially, he's got about a 2-second gap back to your defending series champion, Mike Rasmus, and that just gives him a little bit of room to play here and kind of be aggressive if he wants to, although he did kind of miss that apex on the hairpin.
That was almost aggressive in the wrong way there, into the final corner. But yeah, he's still in a good place, is Matt Taylor. And now on 2 poles, by the way, now on 50 stars. So those stats obviously updated all the time. But yes, he's. I don't think he's thrown it away or anything here. He's still right up there in contention, as you say. And to be honest, I don't actually think he could have done anything different in that first stint anyway. He very much could have been out of fuel when he pitted and thought, I can't go any further here. I've got to come in. So while we're saying, stay out there, make use of the low fuel, sometimes when we don't mean stay out with no fuel. You've got to come in at some point. So I think he may have been forced into that and maybe didn't really want to pit when he did. But what choice did he have?
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things that we don't necessarily have a read on here up in the booth is what those exact fuel levels are necessarily. And so not sure if that was a strategy call or if he had just run that tank dry and needed to come on in, because there is nothing worse. And I can tell you I have done it in public sessions. I have done it in this league itself. I have come down into pit lane sputtering, and that costs you a lot of time. So better be safe than sorry. But we check back in on this battle of the rookies up at the front of the field. Sean Campbell, who ran several times last year in the Lionheart Retro Series and put a very definitive stamp down, ran a few enough races that it was able to be categorized as a rookie for this year. And Philip Kraus, who very clearly made his name in a few other Lionheart series here at this point as he continues to just try to get his way up and tries to go. And this battle really starting to be a little bit of a chess match here at this point.
Yeah, towards the end of the last lap, Kraus actually got really close towards Campbell, and I thought there might be a battle and a move coming up very soon. But yeah, it's not transpired, unfortunately, and they'll stay as they are. By the way, Zegers has been off the road at some point on this most recent couple of laps. He was inside the top 15 or so, sort of in that battle for 12th place on backwards, but he plummeted down the order, and he's back to pit lane. So I do fear that he might have found the wall.
Well, that's not going to be a good thing there for him. A surprising low amount of attrition in this race here. I have, as we are over the halfway point here, working on lap 35 of 64, we're going to go ahead and cut away to a quick ad break here, as it looks like Kraus is just holding at the moment, so you're not going to miss anything here on track. But we're going to go to a quick RaceSpotTV ad break, and we'll be back after these messages. Welcome back to the HyperX Grand Prix of Long Beach. You saw it there on your little bit of side-by-side action as Philip Kraus was trying to take the lead away there from Sean Campbell, but now some lap traffic way here as Campbell tries to navigate his way around these tight and twisting Southern California streets, and it looks like that could present another opportunity here for Philip Kraus. Kraus looking, not going to be able to make the move through the left-hander, but once again, these battles are allowing for Matt Taylor to keep involved in this battle as well. Your top three running very, very close here. Throw an absolute blanket over him. DJ Clark here up in the booth alongside Ewan O'Leary. Ewan, this one is far from over.
Absolutely far from over, and we saw in that little bit of side-by-side, there was side-by-side racing down in this final sector especially, but Sean Campbell fending off the challenge there from Phil Kraus on this particular moment. It's showing, though, that this race is absolutely not over by any stretch of the imagination. There's still a long way to go in this one, and a lot of battling to happen as well. Kraus will gain again as he's getting stronger at that final corner. He'll go to the outside again, but once again won't be able to find his way through either.
No, he's not going to be able to do it. And look at that. Taylor lurking in the background still, trying to put a little bit of pressure on the back of these drivers to see if he can maybe elicit a little bit of a mistake out of Philip Kraus. Kraus happened to be driving out of that front, I would say windshield here at this point, but it's more of just kind of a little screen in front of him, and looking in those rear view mirrors, trying to look back and forth here at this point to see what he is able to do. Looks like he's able to withstand anything here from Taylor as he tries to just close down a little bit more on Campbell. But again, that good line for Kraus coming out of the final hairpin, really and truly playing it well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic line that he's got down now, and he's spent a lot of time behind others at this point, so you'd expect him to be able to do it, but he's really got that nailed. Campbell has done enough, I think, with his own exit on this occasion to stay away, but even on times when Campbell's done a good exit, Kraus has got the ability to close in with the slipstream, and because of the exit he's got, he's still a challenge, he's still a threat, even when Campbell does everything right himself.
Yeah, he certainly does. I mean, this is a very, very evenly matched battle up between three absolute titans of this Lotus 79 series as they continue to run. And there you see Campbell pushing the limits there as much as possible, bringing that car out to the outside. And once again, there Kraus doing the same through the different corner, hopping over those curbs. And he's been doing that consistently, lap in and lap out here as they run.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what you need, consistency around here, because after all, anything wide of the mark of consistency is going to find yourself in the wall around this circuit. So it's kind of important in a survival sense as well, but also in terms of keeping those behind you. If you generally hit your marks and just do everything correct in your race, then there's no way that your rival behind you can get through. Of course, there are exceptions to that, but even so, if you just do your part right, then you should be fine, as Campbell is continuing to do.
Yeah, he's going to try to just continue on here. Got to be driving in his rearview mirrors a bit as he goes, trying to make sure Kraus isn't going to be able to send a move. A little bit of a defensive line coming down the main straightaway there. Big defensive line there from Campbell, and that's going to prevent any attack there from Kraus. That's good heads up, but the flip of that is that's going to be knowledge that Kraus can start putting in that notebook in his mind. He can start thinking about, okay, I know Campbell's going to try to defend around the inside, and he may try to position his car a little bit and see how it's going to work around the outside into one, if that's going to be his best area.
I'm not sure where his best area is going to be, really. I think he'll want the inside line somewhere, but I'm not sure he's going to get it anywhere. I think maybe he'll feel that the last side-by-side they had into the final sector was a bit of a missed opportunity, but obviously he can't look back and regret on that just at the moment. He's just got to keep his eyes forward and keep looking for the next opportunity, as that will surely be not too far around the corner. About 2/3 of the way through the race now, and once again Kraus will be on that late apex again, although Campbell has almost done it himself on that occasion.
Yeah, and it looked like there that Campbell trying to maybe throw a little bit of a defensive line through the corner, jumping on the binders ever so slightly to try to back up Kraus a little bit, but Kraus very, very wise to it as he's going to get a good run here. Is he going to take a look? No, and look at that. Campbell knows that is absolute brilliant racecraft there from Sean Campbell. He recognizes the gap, recognizes that Kraus is too far behind, and doesn't move over onto that line. He is absolutely in tune with what is going down in these cars.
Absolutely, and they all are at the front here. It's remarkable to see. You can see the top 5 in your shot there, by the way, as Rasmus and O'Brien are both catching up as well. The top 5 covered by less than 2.5 seconds right now.
Yeah, trying to work their way on through here as Taylor's going to kick up a little bit of dirt there on the outside as they go. Little bit of a good run here for Kraus. Campbell certainly thought about a little bit of a defensive line there as they run, coming down now into that section. As we said, when we were on that split screen, we saw them go side by side here at this point. Now it looks like Campbell really trying to hug down to that inside line. Kraus trying to take as good of a launch as possible. Look at that launch. Who is that coming down into pit lane? Was that a laps car?
It was Taylor. No, it was Taylor. I thought it was and then thought it wasn't. But it is definitely. Matt Taylor's in. Now, 21 laps remaining. 22, actually, as he gets to the line here. So he's within the fuel window, but this is a bizarre one.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he short-fueled the car a little bit, trying to take a little bit of an alternate strategy. He's within the window, so he can make it to the end from this point in the race. He's just trying to take an alternate strategy, maybe thinking that he can make this jump in the pit stops.
To be fair, with an 8-second pit stop last time, I don't actually think he did short fill there at all last time, but he's just decided to cut his losses and go in right now. But once again, he might well not be, that might well not be the smartest thing because of the fuel situation we were talking about earlier on in terms of lighter is better, especially in these cars, so it might not be the best call. He has found himself in a nice pocket of clean air, though, of about 5 seconds, which he'll be able to use over the course of the next 10 laps.
Well, and that could be a little bit of what precipitated that move. Remember, some of these drivers are going to have people on the spotter stand, on that strategy wall to be able to help them out and get a little bit of that picture, and that could have been the call that Taylor, who has frankly been running in dirty air for the majority of this race, plugged up behind Campbell and Kraus after he was overtaken for the lead, just wants to be able to run some clean laps. We've also got another taker down into pit lane. This is going to be Tyler Graff, one of the Nezumi Graphics LC drivers, also clearly taking a similar strategy here to Matt Taylor.
Clearly, and maybe has got some inspiration. Guyon also into the pit lane. Now that Taylor's sort of kicked it off, and now that it's a big name as well, the pole sitter of this race has kind of kicked it off. Now everybody's eyeing up the pit lane thinking, well, maybe that is a good idea, and I'll do it as well. So that's really opened the door for everybody now, but the rest of the top 5 seem to be unmoved.
Yeah, they don't really want to do that here at this point, but I want to give a little bit of credit here. You know, you said about 3-4 laps ago that we could see the top 5 in the shot. Well, Mike Rasmus here is starting to reel in a little bit more. That gap was at about 2 seconds up to your leader. It's down to 1.1 here at this point. As now Kraus is going to come down into pit lane.
Well, I think he was slightly slowed up by Campbell's poor exit off the final corner and thought, well, if there's ever a lap to come in, it's now. And so he will. Gruff, by the way, came out behind Matt Taylor. You won't be surprised to learn the real interest is going to be between Kraus and Taylor on this time. Has it allowed the 8 to get ahead?
Well, let's see if it's going to be able to here at this point as we watch Kraus coming down into the pits. He's going to come out, no tires there, as he's going to work his way on out right now, waiting to get past that green cone that you can see there on your screen. Taylor going to roar on by down that sweeping long straightaway, and it looks like that did not work out for Taylor. He's going to be behind Kraus again.
Not even close there. Kraus is miles ahead. Not sure where the difference was made, because I think their pit stop times were quite close, but I just wonder whether the heavy fuel load there for Taylor has really halted him. Of course, we didn't see his outlap, so we don't actually know how he got on there, but clearly something has happened, because he's dropped back now and is in danger of losing his place on the podium as things stand. Sean Campbell decides not to cover off Phil Kraus at the moment.
Yeah, I'm not sure what... I mean, I don't know how it's going to work off, but I think that's the only logical thing that Campbell can do here at this point is run a complete counter strategy. What we saw Philip Kraus run, he just wants to try to run this tank absolutely dry, come in for a splash and dash. That would be what I would think if I was in the position of the number 26.
I think so. I think just doing something entirely different, but then again, you do kind of take the risk of doing a different strategy, and then you come out behind Kraus and you're giving yourself about 6 laps to try and rectify it. So that is the risk that he'll have with it. I don't think he'll run this tank absolutely dry, but he'll run it quite close.
Yeah, he certainly will. By the way, Chris Fowler also going to be another driver in the number 20 to come down into pit lane here at this point. it looks like Campbell starting to put on a little bit of the afterburners. Now that Kraus has come down into pit lane, I wonder there if Campbell was trying to do a little bit of fuel save, try to extend that stint a little bit, and that was potentially holding up the rest of the field. And now that they have come on in, Campbell is absolutely going for broke here at this point, as frankly shown by the fact that he's got about a 1.6 advantage now over Rasmus. That has grown by about 0.6 of a second over the course of 2 laps.
Yeah, it certainly has. I think everybody knows at this stage that it's really that stage in the race where the kind of battles are put to one side for the moment. It's about getting your head down and going as quickly as you possibly can. And that's the case for Campbell right now. Kraus will probably be the same, and well, everybody will be as well. But I just wonder, when there was the battle going on, whether Campbell and Kraus were going at full speed at the front of the field, because Rasmus was able to close in. Now that Campbell's been let loose, Rasmus is no match again.
Yeah, really no match here at this point. Is another 0.3 gains here by Sean Campbell. And you could tell by the body language of that car, he is pushing it here at this point, getting a little bit slideways, coming onto the back straightaway. That 26 is absolutely pushing here at this point. He knows that this race win is at stake.
And it absolutely is at this stage in the race. Bit of lap traffic up in front here as well for Campbell, and he'll stay out and possibly negotiate it on the circuit. But these are the moments that win and lose you races. Campbell was in a very different situation last season, but he's showing that he can win from all kinds of situations. New fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, and that really confirms what we see as we got another taker. That's going to be O'Brien coming down into pit lane here at this point. And so that's going to be another one of your leaders opting to take that a little bit of an alternate strategy, leaving Campbell on an island unto himself for the moment. We'll have to see if he is going to be able to make any of this work. Now, where is O'Brien going to come out in relation to Taylor, in relation to Kraus here? That is Taylor on the top of your screen here as they come. Kraus just flashed into view there on the bottom of your screen. Kraus is on by. This is going to be a little tight with Taylor. I think Taylor's got him.
Quite comfortable in the end, so that's slightly worrying for O'Brien, really. But I think that will give some optimism to Rasmus here, who might be able to overtake Taylor in the pit stops here. Not entirely sure what happened to our pole sitter on his outlap or outlaps, but something clearly did, because he is quite a long way behind Kraus, and that gap remains so. And O'Brien is quite significantly closer to him than he was before the pit stops as well.
Yeah, significantly behind here at this point, so he is and he's trying to close in on the back of Kraus, but it just doesn't look like it's working here at this point. He's got about 3 seconds to try to make up, and it's just not coming his way. His good news is that he's got about 4 seconds in between himself and him. Oh, it's Tyler Groff with a big slide and crash down into turn 1.
Well, I've no idea how he's got away with that, because he's still running 9th, but that was a slam into the wall. And just getting things ever so slightly wrong on the brakes in towards turn 1, which is very easy to do.
Yeah, very easy to do, as we've indicated here a couple points. Richie Hearn going to be coming down into pit lane at this point. He is going to be taking service there in that number 70. So more and more drivers here opting for a little bit of an early strategy, spinning the wheels coming out of pit lane. Here they go.
Yeah, a couple of difficulties on the way out, but he'll be fine. And will be overtaken by Graf and Miranda. Maybe Graf is feeling the effects of damage here, because I believe anyway, he has been caught in this battle.
Yeah, he certainly has been caught as Campbell. Campbell is going to come down into pit lane, leaving Mike Rasmus up at the front of the field as he is going to take over, but Campbell is going to be the one coming down in here on lap 50 with about 15 laps to go. Your leader down into pit lane, and now the battle between him and Kraus. We are going to find out how this sorts itself out.
5.2 seconds down on the lane or down in the box for Campbell, I should say. And now the long run out of pit lane. He's going to have one of the lap cars in front of him, which really might not help here on the exit of pit lane. We'll just have to see how carefully they take it, but I don't think Kraus is anywhere near enough anyway.
No, he is not. He is all the way back there in the back, and that is going to be Campbell back out and into the lead. The virtual lead here at this point. He comes down into 3rd place, but we assume that he will inherit the lead when everyone is clear on through. Going to work his way through a little bit of lap traffic there at that point. Campbell with a quick pit stop, and clearly that overcut strategy working out here for the number 26.
It all comes back to what you said earlier on about the fuel levels in this car and the fact that lower fuel is so much better around this or in this car to be dealing with, and that's exactly what Campbell has used there. He didn't even use the full length of it, the full reach of it. He pitted early, but even so, it was still more than enough. And yeah, it was nice to try something, I suppose, for everybody here, but those that pitted early really haven't worked out.
Yeah, they certainly have it. You just saw, by the way, that was Bruno Miranda able to get a move done on Tyler Groff, as we suspect that Groff's got a little bit of damage here that he is trying to work on by. Miranda working his way up through. I don't believe he's made a pit stop here at this point, but the Hugo Hollinger Racing rookie doing a very good job up into the top 10 here. This is an impressive drive from him.
It is, and continuing to make progress even at this stage. It is a little bit easier to make that kind of progress, but you still got to be up there. And anybody who's even on the lead lap at this stage, I suppose, is doing a pretty decent job, because it's getting into a very attritional race. Only 21 cars left remaining in this one. We've already had 7 retirees, and the field very spread out, but still good battles going on up and down. Tyler Groff here not able to repass Miranda into turn 1.
No, and I've got to say, for as heavy as damage as we saw going down into the corner there, he's surviving this relatively well here at this point, and being able to keep that Nezumi Graphics LC machine out and running. So credit there to Tyler for keeping that going. I would not have thought that car would have been in a position to be able to keep fighting, but he's fighting the good fight and keeping it on.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty heavy contact with the wall, but clearly he's not received much damage at all, if any. Well, I think he has got some, actually, because I don't think he'd be caught quite in this way by Bruno Miranda. But even so, he's certainly not got much damage here, and he's holding out quite well. That's what it's all about here at Long Beach, especially. Just pick up the points that you can. Top 10 finish is not bad whatsoever, and even if it's not maybe what you could have achieved, then try and get there for the end of the race, because it all counts at the end, and that looks like what Tyler Groff is going to do here. He's got a little bit of a gap behind that he might be able to sit on for this 9th place.
Yeah, if he can hold on to it here, I think that'll be a good result for him, and he'll be feeling pretty good about it as things go. And I think the draft here that he's able to hold on to the back of Bruno Miranda is certainly going to help him out a little bit too as they run, that he's going to be able to just kind of tuck up behind there and down the straightaways, keep a little bit more than he would have had normally on this circuit. But we watch here Miranda just trying to work his way on through, trying to see if there's anything that he is able to get done here at this point. Miranda, one of the rookies here, one of the more unheralded rookies, had a pretty good run last time out in Pocono, kept his nose clean and was able to keep going around there for a pretty good long time. Groff, a little bit sketchy there, coming off onto the back straightaway. Looked like he made a little bit more contact with the wall, and he's going to lose a little bit of time there up to that number 91.
I think he's just losing time naturally at this point anyway in this race, because of the damage, because of where he is here. But he's sticking with Miranda quite well now that he's got someone to follow up in front of him. He's doing quite well once again, and that in itself, I suppose, might be enough to hold off Reagan, who's behind there. Hearn as well, not too far away. Harden and Guyon all pretty close to Groff here to displace him from that top 10, but I just don't think it will happen at this stage, as the temporary race leader, we'll say, Mike Rasmus, comes in. Be interested to see whether he can get out in third, or well, not in third, but ahead of Matt Taylor or not.
Yeah, I was actually thinking the exact same thing there, Ewan, on what exactly those gaps were going to be as he comes in and out. Now, we anticipate he'll probably take a relatively short stop here. I would say probably around the 4 to 5 second mark. Yeah, it's going to be exactly 5 seconds on the nose, and that's going to bring him back out. Campbell looks like he's coming down the front straightaway. That's Campbell right there. That's Kraus coming on by. He's going to come out in third. Mike Rasmus is going to find himself in third place right now, ahead of Matt Taylor. And we might have a little bit of a race here going on for second place between Rasmus and Kraus if Rasmus is able to get this car up to speed.
Yeah, for all we were saying earlier on in the race about how everyone was so close inside the top 5, I think that's all been reversed actually in the last 10 to 15 laps. It's really now about consolidating your places. And I think this, from Rasmus, says a lot about what Matt Taylor experienced in his first out laps here, because while he was running on heavier fuel, clearly something has gone awry. He has lost a lot of seconds, now more than 3 away from Rasmus, and it looks like after getting pole position here this evening, he's not even going to be on the podium.
That's very, very unfortunate there for Matt Taylor. Just a little bit of bad strategy coming back to bite him as they go. He may still have a little bit of a shot here. He's not too far behind Rasmus, but we're going to have to see what the pace is of that #1 machine. Remember, that's your defending series champion there in the form of Mike Rasmus, so he certainly has the pace. We know that. As we close down with about 10 laps to go here, this is going to be a pretty interesting run to the line to see how these drivers are going to play themselves out. It's a little bit of a gap here at this point, but this has developed into a full-on sprint race here as they go.
It has now to the very end. We've obviously got to wait and see where Sirois comes out in relation to everybody, but apart from that, it is a bit of a run to the line. The top two have less than a second separating them, so maybe there'll be a battle there, but at the moment, Matt Taylor is going to receive quite an unwanted record here at Long Beach and become the only pole sitter at this circuit to not finish on the podium in the Lionheart Retro Series.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit unfortunate there for him. Rasmus having to deal with a little bit of lap traffic here. Move down to the inside lap traffic, doing the right thing there, being predictable, running the predictable racing line. So often you hear drivers talking about, well, you know, you're supposed to get out of the way, or you think you want those lap cars to get out of the way for you. That's not necessarily true. Running a predictable racing line, that sometimes can be the best thing for those lapped cars.
It certainly can be, especially around here. Sometimes you do want them to jump out the way, to be fair, because it can get very, very tricky. But from time to time as well, you need them to be predictable and stay on the line, and that's exactly what happened there. And hopefully it will be the same for these two as well when they rumble on through, whoever it will be, because Campbell and Kraus are together again.
Oh, yes, they are. Kraus has been putting in some good times here. Not able to take the fastest lap of the race away from Sean Campbell. He has gotten that gap down under a second there. You can see about 4 or 5 car lengths in between Campbell and the pink machine here of Phil Kraus. He is definitely putting the screws here. Two-year championship leader is in the back straightaway. Doesn't look like they're going to have any lap traffic to deal with for the moment. This could be a little bit of a 2-car battle here, bringing on down in, and I'll tell you who would love to see this really develop into a 2-wide battle through multiple corners like we saw earlier on in the race. That's Mike Rasmus. He may still have a little bit of a shot to move his way forward. Is there David Sirois, the Raven LeBlanc Motorsport driver, going to come down into pit lane, giving the lead of the race back over to Sean Campbell.
So yeah, 8 laps to go, and it is now going to be down to these two. I think there is going to need to be a lot of fighting, to be honest, for Rasmus to catch up. I know the gap's only 3 seconds, but realistically, he needs to get there soon if he wants to make any impression on the actual positions themselves. And at the moment, that doesn't look likely. Kraus is going to really methodically and slowly think his way through these final 8 laps, I think, because that's how he's going to get the best outcome in terms of a winning position. But that's not going to be good news for Rasmus, because he needs big battles from very early to really gain anything here. I think it's going to be between these two to the end.
Yeah, I think it is as well. Just trying to add a little bit of spice there to see if he was going to be able to close in. Oh, no, something's happened to Rasmus. Rasmus falling down through the order.
It has. I wonder if it was up towards turn 7, or turn 6, 7 kind of area that things went wrong, or whether he's just disconnected as he has a technical problem. I'm not entirely sure, but that's a big shame from him from third place to drop down the order quite rapidly.
And we are hearing confirmation that is a disconnect for your reigning champion, Mike Rasmus. But we cannot sing the sorrows of him because we've got a battle for the lead. Kraus being forced to go around the outside, down into turn 1. He's going to get the move, looking like it's done. Lap traffic trying to stay out of the way. They're coming down, and that's a defense there from Sean Campbell, getting his elbows out a little bit and holding the line down into the first corner.
And that was a huge example of how important the inside line is towards turn 1, because Campbell was barely alongside Kraus at one point down the back end of that straight there. Such was the overspeed for the 4, but in the end, Campbell was able to hold the place because of that, and I don't think Kraus is willing to risk it all just yet. Of course, we are early on in this championship, so they're not really thinking about that kind of thing. They're just going to go for the race win, I feel, but at the moment, Kraus didn't fancy going for it that time. He's got another chance now, though.
He's going to have to look around the outside again, coming down the back straightaway. Campbell will hold the inside line. Kraus has got a nose ahead into the braking zone. We've seen this come up before. Contact between the two. Kraus keeps it on the straight and narrow and makes the move.
Great car control from Kraus there, because the two made contact. It was a racing incident, really, but they're all over the place now. Good catch from Kraus through turn 9. Campbell had to do the same at the final turn, and surely they'll have another skirmish in towards turn 1.
Yeah, surely they will. Little bit of a fade. Big block there from Kraus coming down to the inside. Campbell tries to look at the outside. Now Kraus moves back onto the racing line, and that's going to scupper any chances there for the 26 as they come back down into the fountain section. This is starting to get a little bit feisty.
It really is. Campbell looking for his second win in as many years. This is the battle we're talking about, though. Wonderful racing between the two. Ever so slight contact and a good save as well, sliding save. I think Campbell was a bit spooked by the contact, though, and sort of let Kraus have that one after he felt it.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think he just sort of recognized that there was a little bit of a problem there, and he didn't want to put up too much of a fight. He's going to have a couple more laps to try to regain, and I think he also has got some faith in the car that he'll be able to fight back. So let's see what he does here. Now, remember, Kraus has taken that little bit of a contrary line coming down through the hairpin, and that's helped him up to this point in the race. Let's see what Campbell can do with it, though. We saw this battle play out earlier, but that was with Matt Taylor in front of them. We haven't seen Campbell being the fighter there behind, and it looked like maybe a little bit of contact coming down through the hairpin.
Yeah, there was sort of a strange accordion effect that went on there that meant that Campbell couldn't quite get on the gas as early as he wanted to out of the corner, and Kraus was able to speed away as a result, and he'll be laughing for a few moments' time. 5 laps to go, including this one now, and the intensity has just been ramped up to 11 here in this race now. Absolutely fantastic between the two, and it's so hard to call. It's a flip of a coin between these two at the moment.
Yeah, it really and truly is. It's anybody's race here at this point. Campbell looking like he's about 3 car lengths behind. Call it a car length and a half, 2 car lengths as they dive down into the left-hander, bringing their way on down the hill here at this point. Onto the right-hander that leads onto the back straightaway here, taking as much track width as they can, bringing those cars all the way to the outside as they fly down the back straightaway now here at this point, trying to close on in. Out of it. It doesn't look like Campbell's got the run here, but again, this is all going to end up being in this final corner through this final hairpin. Who's going to get the run?
I think it will be Campbell, but Kraus took such a wide line there that it kind of prevented Campbell from getting on the gas too early once again. And here they go up towards turn 1. I don't think Campbell's going to be close enough. He'll have to wait for another opportunity, but with 4 laps to go now, he will be running out of chances. Here he goes.
He's going to take another little bit of a look, but good defense there from Kraus, just holding that middle of the road there, not letting anybody on by, and he is going to be able to defend here, but Campbell now starting to get a little bit antsy as he is starting to move and get a little bit closer. We take a look on board in the lower part of your screen right now as they bring their way out and around. Campbell not fighting the car nearly as much as I thought he would here at this point as they run. He's going to try to close down here a little bit more, really bringing the steering wheel on. Going to be able to get a run here down into this back straightaway. This has kind of been Kraus's hunting ground, and again, carrying great speed onto that back straight.
Yeah, really nice turn 9 from Phil Kraus there. That might just have marked him safe for the next half lap or so from Campbell, unless the latter can produce a really special final sector here. I think Kraus will be all right in towards turn 1, but he does have to be a little bit careful with his defending at the moment, Kraus. He is moving around quite a lot for my liking anyway on the home straight.
Yeah, he is doing a little bit of bobbing and weaving here. He's going to hold the inside line as they come down into the corner here at this point. Now he's going to fade off just a little bit, giving a little bit of that Pruitt fade. Now Campbell's going to take a look down to the inside with 3 laps to go. Only about a single car length in between the two as they come down into the fountain section. Probably not going to be able to get an overtake done here for the next couple of corners for Campbell. He's just got to keep it together, and we've got a little bit more interesting nature coming up. We've got some lap traffic in front.
This could really affect the overall race and the outcome of this one. Hopefully the lap traffic knows the situation here, knows the stakes that these two are playing for, and will get out of the way of them quite nicely, but getting through on them will probably prevent Sean Campbell from making an overtake. Now the lap car will get out of the way, thankfully up on the road towards turn 9.
He's going to try to get a little bit of a run here. Looks down to the inside. Has to be able to all back in line, though. Not going to go to the outside like we saw Kraus do. This is all going to be set up here coming down the main straightaway as they're going to cross over the line with 2 laps to go. Both of them taking that very, very long outside line. And that's Kraus getting a little bit sideways coming out of the corner.
Yeah, really big slide, and he'll give the inside line to Campbell through the long home straight as well. The two of them almost rubbing on the straight, and it looks like he might have the place even before the braking zone, although Kraus comes back at him in towards turn 1, and on the penultimate lap he retakes the lead again.
Retakes the lead. Brilliant stuff here between Kraus and Campbell as they go. Now Campbell still trying to push in behind. Less than a car length between the two as they rise back up the hill a little bit. Maybe a little bit of a sneak attack could be in order here for Sean Campbell if he is going to try to be able to get his way on by. He's not going to be close enough here. Again, he's just going to have to focus down, going down the back straightaway. We've seen that move play out before.
Well, this looks like it's going to come down to the final lap because typically Sean Campbell hasn't been so strong out of turn 9. He hasn't been able to give it a go into the final sector. If anything, this lap has not been nearly as good, and so will not really have an obvious chance as he did last time around. Was that last lap his best chance at winning this race?
Maybe it was. The white flag getting ready to be flown here by Barney the Flagman as they come out of the hairpin for the penultimate time, working their way, and it looks like 3-4 cars.
This might well be enough for Phil Kraus now. The white flag out. Final lap of the race. And with nearly half a second, he's got no opposition towards turn 1. It's going to have to be something special, something unorthodox for Sean Campbell now.
And there we see him coming down Fountain section, able to navigate around that very tight and twisting part of the track. They're going to work their way back up the hill here a little bit. Campbell getting off the accelerator, now back onto it. Careful on those worn tires. His tires are gone. He is having to back off here. That gap's about 4 or 5 car lengths.
Yeah, turn 5 there was nowhere near as good as it needed to be for Campbell. And he's not as strong through the second half of the lap anyway, so surely he's not going to be able to do it now. Kraus has just got to stroke this one home with half a second of an advantage. Looks like he's going to become the 4th different Long Beach winner in the Retro Series.
It looks indeed like he is. He's just got to hold on for this last sequence of corners. Brings the car down through the Firestone left, coming down now into the hairpin for the final time. Philip Kraus ahead of Sean Campbell, able to power down on this long front straightaway, curving its way towards the flag stand, and Kraus will take victory here from Long Beach.
And fastest lap at the last lap as well for Phil Kraus in that one. Fended off Campbell, overtook him very nicely as well actually in terms of the move he actually made. Was very clean and respectable as well, but did defend well in the end too. And a very, very deserving first-time Long Beach winner here this evening.
Indeed, an absolutely fantastic run for Phil Kraus as he takes his lap of honor and brings that car down allowed into HyperX victory lane. Very, very impressive stuff, squealing up the rear tires. And I got to tell you something, Ewan, I wasn't sure how this race was going to go necessarily, but these two up at the front of the field, did they put on a display?
Certainly did. There was certainly moments in that race where things were quieter and it was just a case of following one another, but that moments of survival paved the way for great racing at the end, keeps things nice and close. It's very rare that we see a race like we did last year with Campbell running away. It's often at Long Beach we get those battles to the line, and we have that again this year.
Yeah, we certainly did, as they really put on a good display. We watch them working their way around the track here, and they're taking a little bit of a spin of honor, is Philip Kraus in that number 4 machine. And, you know, I got to tell you something, you and I ran the number 4 for a couple of races here in Lionheart a few years ago. I am happy to be able to hand that number off, and that is certainly Philip Kraus that is doing it justice here today at Long Beach.
Is he having more success than? Are you taking credit for his win?
No.
Partly?
Oh, he is. He is. This is way more success than I ever had. I got a 3rd place at Homestead. That was it.
I was going to ask, but yeah, he's certainly carrying it well at the moment, and fantastic to see for him. He should move up the standings a little bit as well from 8th place, where he did slightly move down after the previous race at the first Triple Crown. But he should be moving up after this one.
He certainly should, as we bring you the race results here, powered by for Campbell and Taylor in a very, very frenetic last couple of laps there, the duel to the end. Michael O'Brien falling down there, holding on to 4th place is a good run for him. Christopher Hill having a very quiet but very, very successful drive there for Unacceptable Racing. David Sirwa doing what he does best, just getting good top 10s here. Tyler Groff able to hold on to 7th place despite that big spin that we saw him have. Good credit there for Tyler. Richie Hearn, another driver who was involved in that opening incident that we saw, a little bit of bumping and banging off of the restart there. Richie able to hold on to a top 10. Guyon on a 2 top 10 day there for Raven Lavoie, and Bruno Miranda. First car a lap down, but a fantastic run there for the Juncos Hollinger Racing Team. Christopher Reagan was down in 11th by Ricky Harden, Samuel Fontaine, Gabriel Wood, and Cristobal Valenzuela. Remember, we saw him have a pretty big incident there at the beginning of the race. He was able to come back there and finish 15th. Samuel Ryman, remember, able to make that longer strategy work on the opening stint. He came home 16th, able to finish only 1 lap down. Rasmus was 2 laps down, followed by Jenkins, Munoz, and Craig Forsyth. And then we get into some of the drivers here that had a little bit of trouble on the day. Forsyth, Fowler, Zagers, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, Jim Herrick, Seb Alexander, Christopher Starpley, and Hugo Gallas there as they all come down. And where there you can see that fastest lap of the race, as you said, set by Phil Kraus on the last time of asking. An absolutely incredible run there for them. And it looks like here as we work our way over into HyperX Victory Lane, we do indeed have our winner talk to us here from this beautiful, beautiful part. And this is part of course, the Next Level Racing post-race show here. We are able to bring you here at this point. So we are going to go ahead and bring on up into the booth here your victor of the day. That is right. Philip Kraus, you did it, my friend. Talk about that duel towards the end.
I don't know how much I can talk about it. I'm still honestly catching my breath. That was one of the most stressful races I've ever been a part of, DJ. Oh my God. That was such a fun race with Sean, and honestly, he probably should have won the race. I got a bit lucky when he got caught behind that lap traffic. I think it was Rodrigo, which it gave me his draft and it gave me a chance to get at him. And then on lap 56, I think it was, I'm not sure what lap it was exactly. I went around his outside at the end of the back straight, and we made a little bit of contact, and he lifted to let me go. I think he thought it was his fault, but I think it was just a racing incident. But yeah, after that, it was just honestly hanging on for dear life, because he probably had a 10th and a half over me on raw pace.
Well, it looked like you were absolutely able to take him, though, particularly down through that last sector. Was that kind of playing on your mind a little bit, and why we saw, I think twice over the course of the race, you go side by side pretty much down through those last corners down into the hairpin?
I don't know if it was the whole last sector. I was probably quicker through the medium speed flowing corners, but he was so much better than me in the hairpin. He even hit me once in the hairpin just because he was able to carry so much more min speed through there. But that didn't really work for him when he was second, because obviously my car is just kind of in the way for him. But yeah, I think last sector as a whole are probably pretty evenly matched. But I was lucky to be quicker in the corners. You could really go for a move. I thought he was going to send it on me at the hairpin once, just because he was pretty close. And it's like he's got to be getting annoyed because I probably made one too many moves one time on the front stretch. So I thought he was going to rip it down my inside at the hairpin at least once. But yeah, just insane battle. Respect to Sean. That was amazing.
Well, I got to tell you, man, it was absolutely incredible to be able to watch up here in the booth. And I want to ask you one more thing. Talking about the early call to come down into pit lane there on that second stint, was that something you planned, or was that something that was kind of in response to the likes of those around you coming on in?
Definitely wasn't something I planned for. Sean was going a bit slow in the middle of that second stint, trying to save fuel, back us all up a little bit. And when I saw Matt had to pit, I had to respond to Matt, because I figured he might have a chance with that outlap to get an undercut on me. But I was lucky to merge out ahead of him. And obviously when I pit, Sean started going. And when I saw him come out the pits 2 seconds ahead of me, I'm like, oh man, darn, it's over. But, you know, it came back to us at the end.
Well, it certainly did, my friend. A fantastic drive, Phil. This is absolutely incredible to watch. Go and celebrate. This was a great one.
Cheers, DJ. Thank you for commentating on that show.
It was a great one to do. That was your victor here, Phil Kraus for Team Talent, up on the top step of the podium. And now it looks like here that Ewan have been able to catch up with P2, his sparring partner through all of that, Mr. Sean Campbell.
Sean, welcome to the booth. Good to have you here. Tell us about those last few laps there as you tried to find your way through Phil, but just couldn't quite do it.
It was good fun. In a couple words, I got a sore throat, but I mean, it was definitely tense. It was very fun trying to find a way past.
And tell us a little bit about the strategy that went on today as well, because Matt Taylor was the first to come in. Well, I've got to say, we were caught by surprise by how early it was. Phil then responded as well. You eventually did come out in the lead. Did you think you had the race won when you came out in the lead there at the end of the pit stops?
I definitely think I had an advantage because we all started fuel saving. And so, well, they started fuel saving, so I started fuel saving really heavy. And I don't think this is how it went, but I was trying to bait them into pitting and then just like gun it as soon as they pitted to get them out of the draft. And that was my strategy. It worked for me, but I don't know if they pitted because of that. I think they might have just tried to hit the undercut. And I guess it worked. Half worked. I should have defended a little better, but it was a good race. It was still a really good race.
It certainly was. It was fantastic to watch. Sean, congratulations on second place and your part in that leading battle. And thanks very much for coming to chat to us.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Sean Campbell there, second place tonight at Long Beach.
All right, and looks like we've got time for one more interview. That's going to be with your third place driver, Matt Taylor for Nezumi Graphics LC MadWorks. And Matt going to move his way up on into the booth here in HyperX Victory Lane. Matt, you were the highlighted driver of the day. 50th start for you here in the series. Didn't quite turn out in the end the way you wanted it, but a podium still got to feel pretty good.
Absolutely, and to get my first road course pole was kind of special when you consider the guys that you've got, Kraus and Campbell and Rasmus. There's some ridiculously quick guys, and to grab that was awesome, but just could not summon the pace I had in practice early on to kind of take advantage of that.
Well, obviously you were particularly quick over the course of one lap. Was it a matter of just consistency, or was it just kind of race conditions changing a little bit on you and you felt like you couldn't get it together there in the race that prevented that?
It just takes so much commitment with this car in particular on entry to squeeze the pace out of it, and the first chunk of that race was in shade, and in VR it's really dark. So you're at a road course where you have no room for error, and it's hard to see where you're going, and so that certainly didn't help. But I felt like I was okay once I kind of settled in behind Phil and Sean and kind of let them sort it out, and was hoping that pitting early they wouldn't notice that and they would just continue to run slow, and that absolutely did not happen.
Well, we were thinking there at the end that you were going to be able to make a little bit of charge in with them battling like that. But 50 starts under your belt here, a great start to the season here at this point, and a great start here for Nezumi Graphics LC MadWorks. What's the rest of the season have in store for you, my friend, and what's the next 50 starts have in store for you?
Man, I don't know. I would just love to keep these top fives going and see if I can't snag a win here, and we'll worry about the championship later at this point, but it's fun to be in the battle.
It's fun to watch you up, Matt. Congratulations on a podium and 50 race starts. A great achievement.
Thank you, DJ.
All right, that was Matt Taylor, your third place driver here in Ewan. Just talk of a cracker of a race. This was incredible. There you can see it on your screen right now. These drivers absolutely putting on a show for us here down the Roar on the Shore, living up to its title.
Absolutely, it was a fantastic race between the two of them. Took a while to get going, especially for the lead, but when it did, it was absolutely worth it. The pass that Kraus made for the win in the end was absolutely wonderful. Campbell had nothing in response in the end, and what transpired was a wonderful battle between the two of them that will be long in the memory in this championship.
It certainly will. 4 trips to Long Beach, and I've got a sneaking suspicion we're going to see 5 come next season. Well, folks, the Lionheart Retro Series is so happy to be able to bring you all of this action, but it wouldn't be possible without some of our amazing sponsors, including HyperX. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX, visit Prix. They're also sponsored by Level Racing. Next Level Racing is an industry-leading cockpit and motion simulator manufacturer devoted to create the most immersive experience possible for the global sim racing community. Take your racing to the next level and visit nextlevelracing.com. Also, thanks to the Butt Kicker. You're passionate about sim racing, but it always feels a little flat compared to the feeling of driving a real car. Now you can actually feel what it's like to drive a race car. Butt Kicker haptic hardware and software are easy to install and let you feel every bump of the track, slip of your tire, and engine redline. The tactile feedback is so accurate and realistic, you'll be driving faster and having more fun than ever before. Visit thebuttkicker.com. Thanks as well to BMW Performance Center. If you think sim racing is thrilling, try getting behind the wheel of a real race car. The BMW M4 GT4 experience at the BMW Performance Driving School in Thermal, California puts you in the cockpit of one of BMW's fastest cars, complete with roll cage and racing slicks. You'll get fitted with a racing suit, practice pit stops, and lap their track with pro instructors. Nothing virtual about their thrills. To book your M4 GT4 experience, call or visit the links on screen. Thanks as well to Gomez Sim Industries. They're makers of high-end esports equipment and controls, precision-built using nothing but the best materials available today. Passion and handmade craftsmanship drive each made-to-order build, creating a driving experience like no other. SimIndustries.com. Also, thanks to Arena. Arena is an all-new esports streaming experience driven by real-time interactions between gamers and their communities. Arena brings live broadcast fan engagement to the next level. Get involved and make a difference at arena.com. And finally, thanks to Graphics Esports. From simple logos to full branding for your company, virtual designs to liveries raced by Indy 500 champions, Graphics offers the finest quality with a wide range of design services. Visit www.graphicsesports.com. Thanks as well to the many, many sponsors here in this series that are listed here on your screen. It is not possible without any of them. For all of us here at the Lionheart Racing Series, the Lionheart Retro Series, and RaceSpotTV, we are eternally grateful to all of them. Well, folks, you heard it here. That's going to wrap up our coverage for today. But do not fear. In 1 week's time, we will be back in action as the series heads off to Motegi and we go back oval racing once again at one of the most unique ovals in the entire world. But until that time and until June 1st at 10:05 p.m. Eastern Time, my name is DJ Clark. I have been delighted to be joined up here in the commentary booth by Ewan O'Leary with our incredible director and producer, Hugo Luis, behind the scenes. It's been a pleasure to bring you the racing action. And until we see you on the track, thanks for watching.